Stacy, talking about the Norwegian Dancers, you said, how old are the Norwegian Dancers, do we figure?
This is our 69th year.
Amazing.
Can you believe
Amazing.
that?
No, I can't. Why do you think that the dancers have survived for all these years?
Because it is such a unique thing, and it is just, there's just nothing else like it. And when you're a part of it, you understand it. Those who haven't been a part of it, maybe don't get it quite as much, but when you've been a part of it and you've seen the reactions of the audiences all over the country and how much they love what these young people are doing, it's just amazing. You know, they brighten people's days everywhere they go, whether it's the little kids or retirement communities, and they just make people happy. And it's all through Scandinavian folk dance. Who would have known, right?
Now, today, you're dressed in your beautiful bunad. Where did they perform today?
They were at the senior center in Watertown.
Oh.
Yeah, and we were at Marquardt Village in Watertown on Sunday, too. So we've been to Watertown twice this week.
Now, when you're dancing this year with COVID and everything, do they have to wear masks?
They do. Yes.
Yeah. Because then you don't see the face.
No, it's not the same. But it's better than last year,
so
we'll take it.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been around for about 70 years.
Yeah, it's going to be 70 years next year.
And you're figuring some sort of celebration for
hopefully,
for 70 years.
Yeah,
okay.
Hopefully.
What, in all the years that you've been involved with dancers, what's the very best thing that you think has ever happened?
Like my
Tough
highlight?
Question.
Or
yeah.
One of the big highlights for me, and I know it was also for Polly Gepfert, because she had the same experience. Both of us had the privilege of taking the group to Sun City in Arizona and performing at the Sun Bowl, which was this massive amphitheater outdoor with a big stage. And people came hours early and set up and ate their dinners there waiting for us to perform. And there were close to 4,000 people there that night. And it was so cool. It was just really the highlight. I remember the dancers afterwards, they were just so jazzed up. They had this massive dance party on stage after the crowd had cleared out. You know, it was just so much fun. We had a blast. And I remember Polly saying, too, that was one of her favorite memories.
I would suspect that there are some Stoughton people who've retired out there.
Oh, yes.
Many. You had Stoughton people.
Yep.
Tell us about when you go on tour, which I think is fabulous. Sometimes they stay with Norwegian families.
Yes.
And how does that work?
Oh, it's been fabulous. Now, we haven't done it for a couple of years now, but the experiences that they get through those homestays are priceless.
Right.
Priceless. They get to interact with complete strangers and become like their family. I mean, a lot of them stay in touch for years afterwards. And they get to interact with people of a different generation oftentimes, you know, and they learn about hospitality and they learn how to be respectful in someone else's home. And, there's just so many good things that come out of staying in someone's home like that. And I am afraid that might get lost, you know, as time goes on, just, you know, being able to stay in strangers' homes. We, of course, do background checks on them, you know. We're not completely blind. We do realize that it's 2021, you know, but they're all background checked, and we check them out ahead of time. And the people are so gracious. And it's just a win-win, you know. They're impacted as much as our students are. It's wonderful.
I remember my daughter was a chaperone, and my granddaughter was a dancer a couple years ago. And they went to Virginia Beach and were right on the ocean. They sent pictures of these beautiful vacation homes.
Yes.
Boys were in one, girls were in the other.
And those were the homes were donated to us by Keith and Tammy Anderson from Stoughton.
Stoughton.
Yep. Yeah.
Stoughton people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so you just brought up something, Sue. So you have had 3 generations of dancers in your family.
We have.
Which has happened in several families in the Stoughton community. So you were a dancer.
Yep.
And why don't you tell us about, you were there right from ground zero, right from the very first performance the dancers ever had.
I was.
Tell us about that.
All right. Well, it was a sports night, and was it in the spring of the year? Fall? Yeah. And Miss Reek, who was the director, and
But she wasn't at that
no,
time.
she was a Phi Ed teacher,
Right.
and she had kids demonstrating. A row. They were doing spins and cartwheels and things like that. And then the superintendent said, "Why don't you also pick a little group of kids and have them do a couple of Norwegian dances?" And she did. And she taught them the Schottish and the Rhinelander. And I remember Miss Reek thought that it would be once and done, that they were performing that night and then it was over. I was in the crowd. I was, I think, an eighth grader, and they came out in these homemade outfits, and as soon as you heard the Schottish and then the Rhinelander, it was amazing. And I can remember when they were done, it was very emotional, standing and cheering. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to go on, and I really want to know how. I want to be one of those. And so then when I went to high school, then we tried out, as everybody did. And luckily...
Just not to interrupt you, but I remember you telling me one time that when you were an eighth grader and you saw that, from that second on, you were hooked.
I was hooked.
You had to do that.
I knew I wanted to be a dancer. So I tried out, and I practiced. We practiced at noon hour, and then we tried out. And oh my, we had such a wonderful time. I have to laugh, though, when you talk about the trips now. The furthest we went was Milwaukee and Chicago, and we went on a yellow school bus. That's how we went. We didn't fly. We didn't even go with parents, but we went on a school bus. But yes, I absolutely loved it. And then a number of years later, had a daughter. She tried out, made it, and loved it. And then my granddaughter. So that was pretty special.
And I've had the privilege of coaching your granddaughter.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful girl.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
your daughter came on tour with me, as you mentioned. So kind of neat.
It is. It was, I honestly would say it was the very best thing I ever did in high school. Very important.
I would have to say the same thing. So I also was a dancer for 1 year, and the best thing ever. I wanted to be for 3 years, but I just kept trying. And it was hard to get on back then. I mean,
because
there would be 100 kids trying out. There were so many kids that would try out.
Everybody wanted to be a dancer, and I understood why. And in those days, we didn't have fancy clothes. We had clothes that were made by a lady in town. If your parents, if you didn't have a bunad. And so we wore these cotton outfits that were, not at all like what you're wearing. And I was very lucky. I was a waitress at the Old North Chalet. And my boss said, when I was a senior, "Would you like to wear a bunad?" So I wore the Sunmore bunad then.
And he paid for it, or how
no?
did
She just let me wear it.
Okay, it was hers. Then.
Yeah, because we had it on display down at
Gotcha.
At the
nice
Nordic.
And then that's is that the bunad that your granddaughter wore then?
Except
she also wore a
not the same one, but she was Sunmore, but hers was more orange.
Yeah, there's
and
10 different
navy.
versions of that bunad.
Yeah. So that made that very, very special. And so I was lucky to be able to wear a nice bunad after wearing the other one. But we went on. We had no tours. We were lucky to get to Chicago.
The Milwaukee Folk Fair was a huge deal back then.
That was
a big deal.
Yeah,
I've taken the dancers there once, and it's much smaller than it used to be back when you would go and perform there.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's still a big deal today. Not to downplay it, because it still is a big deal today. Yeah.
But that was,
But the dancers were just such in their height, coming out of the 50s and 60s, there was such an explosion of interest in folk dancing and folk culture all the way through the 60s and the 70s and even into the 80s. It was just, Miss Reek was just there right at the right time, when things were just exploding in that area. And that's when the bunads were really getting popular in Norway. They didn't have these costumes back in the early 1900s the way they do today,
No.
And so there the dancers were right on the ground floor and just right there in prime time.
It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it still is, which is pretty amazing. If we talk about tours, what's the best one that you've taken?
Oh, gosh. They've all been wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been permitted to go to Norway?
So, yes, I took the dancers in 2015 to Norway, and that was fantastic. I mean, just wonderful. Yeah. But each tour is wonderful in its own way. You know, each one is quite different, and they're all wonderful. You know, of course, you get to see fun things, and we do a few fun activities with the kids. It's not all work. But universal across every tour, you know, the fun thing, I think, is just the people we meet.
Yeah.
You know, we meet such interesting people when we travel, and it's just really fun seeing that and hearing their stories and getting to know them, and, you know, and that's kind of the universal across all tours,
Yeah.
you know.
I would say that would have to be the highlight, though. I've been lucky enough to go to Norway once, and our trip was canceled last year, of course.
Right.
But it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful. Oh, I know what I need to tell you about Norway. I don't know if I've told you this. We were on Fauna Mountain, walked up to the top of the mountain, and we were going to have a dinner. We were having a dinner, and the entertainment came in, and it was a dance group.
Okay.
And they said, "Do any of you know?" And they were laughing. A couple of the dances, and I think three of us.
Rhinelander?
Three of us were old Stoughton Norwegian dancers, and my husband said, "Oh no, you're not going to raise your hand, are you?" And I said, "Oh yes,
Oh yes, I am."
And we danced. Three of us danced on the top of Fauna Mountain with their group.
Was it a dance you were familiar with, or did you just
No,
jump in?
it was the one where you do the three people together.
Okay.
You know
Sex
the one.
Mon's Real, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did that one.
Or was it Tray Tour, the one where you spin?
No,
No.
the
Okay.
other one.
Okay.
Yeah. And we knew it from the sound of the music.
Oh, neat.
And my husband, he actually went outside, so he didn't have to watch me embarrass myself. And I didn't, because I remembered it. You don't forget.
We'll talk about embarrassing moments. When we were in Norway, we were performing in Lillehammer in this beautiful auditorium. And we had the dance group from Lillehammer there and our group, right? And they were performing. And I'm just introducing the dances, you know. And then all of a sudden, this man from the other group pulls me up with their dance group on stage. I had never danced this dance. I had no idea what I was doing. That was an embarrassing
And you were
moment.
embarrassed. Oh.
I can dance, but not if I'm just thrown in, like, never even seen the dance before.
No,
that was my embarrassing moment in Norway, of course.
In Norway. No,
So you had a much better experience dancing in Norway. You at least knew the dance.
I knew the dance and had a great time, but my husband just couldn't bear to see me do it, so he went outside. How many years have you been directing now?
This is my 11th year as director, plus I shadowed Polly, the previous director, for 1 year, so I've been involved for 12 years.
And how many directors have we had?
3 in 69 years.
And isn't that amazing?
It's unbelievable, but that's all because Jean Reek, the first director, who was your director, led for 46 years.
Yeah.
46! I can't even imagine.
The funny thing about Jean, too, is she had English background.
Yep.
And so she absolutely did not know any Norwegian dances.
No. Or anything about bunads or anything Norwegian.
And had to learn and teach.
But she was smart. She was valedictorian of her graduating class. Very smart woman.
Yes, she was. What we would do, I remember in the gym, we had a movie projector, an old-time one, black and white movies, and we would play a little segment of a dance from Norway, and then we'd try to do it. And that's how we learned many of the dances.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then once you know, then you're passing it on to other people. Yeah. But, you know, you learn so much, as you pointed out, not just the dances, but interacting with people, knowing how to behave, you know, with other groups of people. And that I think is extremely important.
Yeah.
How are the dancers, how are we going to celebrate 70 years.
Oh, I haven't thought about it yet, Sue, but
Okay.
let's get together and talk.
Something has to be done to celebrate
you
70.
hosted the 60th, so now you need to
Yeah.
help me host the 70th.
Okay. If you were picking dancers, which you do every year, tell me what an ideal Stoughton Norwegian dancer looks
like. They are a person of good character.
Yep.
So they are just always respectful and kind, considerate to others, respectful of their peers as well as adults. They get along well with other people. They work hard in school. They're good students. Those are the main things that I'm looking for. I want people that are going to fit into the group, that aren't going to feel, just they need to fit in and be people of good character and good quality. And then the dancing. Then we look at the dancing, right?
Right.
But the dancing almost comes second place because you can teach just about anybody to dance. Right. Teaching someone to be of good character, that needs to start when they're little at home with their parents. Although I would hope and like to think that I play a little role in their development and teaching them to be, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So I hope that I play a small part in that, raising these fine young adults, into adulthood. But
well, as we look forward to 70 years of Norwegian dancing, which I find that's amazing, let some of us former dancers know what we can do to help and to participate in whatever is needed. Because of my friends who are dancers, also, all of us are still in love with Norwegian dancing. So they came out when it was the 50th. We came out with the book, and we had one. A friend gave it to me as they no longer were able to have it. We just had it in an auction at Sons of Norway, and I think it went for over $100. People were crazy about it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll be glad to help whatever we can do.
Well, I think we could maybe do a second printing of that book.
Oh, I think we should.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Miss Reek, when she printed that, she only printed 500 copies.
And
I don't really know why
she told me that no one would want one.
Are you serious? Is that why? Yes. Oh my goodness.
And I said, "Oh, Jane." So I bought 2 of them and gave one back so that my daughter and I share one.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't want to keep them all.
Neat. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Do you want to talk a little bit about back to the very beginning days?
Okay.
Miss Reek was asked by the superintendent, Albert Moldenhauer, to start this group. So it wasn't originally her idea.
No.
How I understand it, Albert Moldenhauer, it was his idea. He approached her, and as Jean says in her book, that was back in the day. You didn't question things. She was already teaching PE in the district, I think K through 12, running herself ragged, plus doing other extracurricular activities, and then she was asked to do this on top of it. But she was 20-something, so she had a lot of energy, I'm sure.
Yep.
And so then it's my understanding that she chose a few girls. I've heard that the principal chose at least 2 of the dancers. So I think Miss Reek chose a couple of the girls, and then they might have asked their boyfriends. There was a little bit of a variation in how those 6 couples first got chosen. And I think a couple of the girls were so happy to join. I heard from a couple of them that because they could wear different outfits, they didn't have to wear the ugly red bloomers for the FIAD demonstration that they would have had to wear if they wouldn't have been chosen to be the dancing. So that was kind of a fun story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly how it came about. He asked her, this is a Norwegian community. This would be a fun thing to do.
And he was also wanting it to be a bridge between the community and the school district.
Yes.
Right? And boy, it has totally played out. His vision to have a connection between the school district and the community was brilliant. And we still have such a huge connection between the group and the community. The Stoughton community rallies around the dancers. You wouldn't believe the wonderful support that we get from the businesses, the individuals in the community. Just it's fantastic.
And then the other group we're forgetting about, and Jean was really getting run ragged because there was so much to do.
Yes.
And I remember having the conversation with her. I was teaching then too, and she said, I this is too much for me. I can't do this. And I said, you know, what we need is the support of the parents.
Right.
And it started, and the parent group has been still. And then you have the what is the other group called?
Friends of Norwegian Culture was incorporated in the 80s.
Yeah.
I believe 84.
Something.
Yeah. And
So,
then that is like the booster club basically for them that helps
which
with
you
the
need that.
fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because a bunad like this is anywhere from $2,000 to $7,000 for one lady's bunad.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, so that the children, when they're picked, do they have to provide their bunad? And
No.
You have them.
Yes. The only thing as of right now that they provide are their, what we call the white. So their white blouse, and the girls have bloomers and pantaloons, and then the guys have their white shirts. Otherwise, everything else is provided.
Even the jewelry? No.
Now the jewelry is. That
Oh
just
my
started
gosh.
about 2 years ago,
Oh.
where we now provide the girls. We've provided the boys their pins forever and ever.
Yeah.
And the girls always had to go buy their own pin. And now we provide the girls jewelry as well, so that it matches, so that they're wearing the authentic jewelry that goes with that bunad.
Well, not only that, but it makes it more equal, so that money doesn't play a part,
No.
because some children wouldn't be able to
Right.
afford to buy that.
Yep, money has never been an issue with becoming a Norwegian dancer, and we make that very clear, you know.
Perfect.
And in fact, you know, I mean, if somebody needed help financially, we would give it. That would never be a consideration. But if they don't, and they end up purchasing all of their own things, it's still much less expensive than cheerleading, hockey, you name it. I mean, most of these other groups, they have to buy a lot more. So, yeah, the dancers don't have to pay for that much. So.
That makes me feel very good.
Yeah, because we never want it to be about money, right? It should never be an elite group. It's never been that. You know,
No.
you don't have to have money to be in the group, and it's equal playing field for everybody.
Well, 70 years, my gosh. We can look forward to 70 more years of Norwegian
hope
Dancers.
so. And that's my goal as a director from day one. I said, no matter how long I do this job, my number one priority is that when I leave, the group is as strong or stronger than when I started. You know, because I want this group to go on for generations, way beyond me, you know. Next 100 years, hopefully, you know.
Yep.
So that's my number one goal as director, is to keep the group going, whatever it takes.
In my family, it's been 3 generations, so that's pretty, and we're not the only ones.
No, we've had quite a few.
Yeah. And I think once people are bitten by the Norwegian dancer bug, they just keep going on. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you
Really,
for asking me, Sue.
yeah.
I really appreciate that.